What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Scouting with the Finns. I am your co-host, Hussam Patel, along with my two other co-hosts, Coach Smith and Eric Wadecki. Coach, how we doing today?
Hey, doing good. Playoff football that we're not getting to enjoy with our team, getting kind of grueling into the looking at the scouting tape for the upcoming draft. So nice chance to talk about some free agents here today.
Of course, and we'll take a look at our draft series. Obviously, we talked about the college football playoff semifinalists. We saw how they did. Andrew Mukaba had a really good day. We saw a little bit of Isaiah Bond, Jack Heiser, and Xavier Watts. Absolutely adored Tyler Warren as well, so we'll see where that lands us. Eric,
Yep.
we're starting our free agency series and primer. And today we're talking a little bit about quarterbacks. Now, obviously, the backup quarterback to Tua is the hot topic this season, but can there be any guys that can potentially replace him later on if things don't work out?
Oh man, replace is a big word there. Backup, absolutely. I don't think in free agency you're looking at guys that could replace Tua. I mean, unless you're throwing $40 million on the table for Sam Darnold, and I don't think they're in the position to do that, nor really should they. Um, but there are some interesting younger players that have some upside, guys that I think could succeed in the Mike McDaniel offense, and at the very least win them some games into his stead. And I'm excited to get into that. I think ultimately, if you're going to talk replacement down the line, you're still looking at the draft. But free agency, I think you have some really good options that can come in and be that guy if Tua misses 3-4 games.
Yeah, I don't think that the Dolphins are going to go the Atlanta Falcons, Kirk Cousins type of route where they throw 30, $40 million at Sam Darnold, even though I feel like he lost a lot of money playing up against the Detroit Lions. You have a couple of guys in Justin Fields, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe Russell Wilson. He's not under contract as well, but he might be a little bit expensive. You have Flyers in Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But we'll talk a little bit about them. First off, Coach, we pretty much spoke a little bit about Trey Lance. I mean, obviously with Trey Lance, the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks up to go ahead and get him, and then there was a little bit of rumor swirling around. What are the 49ers going to do back in the 2021 draft? Are they going to pick up Mac Jones? Are they drafting Justin Fields? And then we come to find out Trey Lance, is the pick, and everyone is just wildly shocked, and everyone is saying, oh my God, Kyle Shanahan is going to turn this guy into a stud. He's a top 3 quarterback pick. He's got all the physical tools, but his first season was marred by injuries. It really never took off after that, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about potential backups for the Dolphins, Trey Lance is intriguing from the perspective that Mike McDaniel would have been very much part of that process when Trey Lance was drafted over Mac Jones by the 49ers. So, you feel like if that is a direction that the Dolphins go in terms of a backup quarterback, that, probably have a lot more background work on Trey Lance than some of the other ones. In a lot of ways, when you're looking at backup quarterbacks, you kind of have to choose either the younger guy that can, be flashy and make something happen. You think about like a Gardner Minshew back when we had the Fitzmagic type stuff, that type of player. And, I feel like that's kind of where Trey Lance is. He's not the older vet guy that's just going to go in there and make the right choices like some of the other guys like the Jimmy G and the Andy Dalton, those type of guys that we might talk about here. But I think the upside of him as a potential long-term player in this offense is better than anybody else that we're going to see in free agency, just because this is a guy that was originally drafted for this system. So there was obviously something that those, the people in charge, obviously Shanahan had a big hand in that, John Lynch and Mike McDaniel would have had a voice in that room as well. So there was obviously something they liked about Trey Lance in this system. So I see him as the more off schedule type guy, right? He's not definitely not to the point where he's going to sit back there and just scan the field and throw it. But I feel like he's a younger guy that has the athleticism that can, hopefully make the right choice early. And if it's not there, he still has that athleticism to use his legs and make something happen as well.
Yeah, I'm taking a look at this play here on NFL Plus, and for those of you guys who are listening, that can also watch along on their phones. I'm taking a look at this play up against the Washington Commanders. Second quarter, 24 seconds left, 4th and 2 at the Washington 2-yard line. All right, we're looking at 11 personnel. The wide receivers are Jalen Tolbert, Brandon Cooks, and Kevontae Turpin. Turpin actually comes back into motion from the strong side of the field to the weak side, and it's pretty much a 2-by-2 look for the Cowboys up in the goal line. The ball is snapped, and it looks like some type of mesh play. It is a mesh play, actually. And the pressure is on Trey Lance already. It's a slot blitz by the defensive back. It could be Mike Sainstro. The right tackle is not able to pick him up properly, and Lance is able to basically get out of that pressure. He's got space to work with. He's got number 83, basically, working with him. Number 83 number 23, Rico Dowdle, the running back. Basically, he's running with them. Maybe you have around an 11 or 12-yard pass at the end. Lance pretty much doesn't set his feet. He throws off of his back foot, and the ball is short on what was pretty much an automatic touchdown. Eric, looking at this play, and from what we've seen from a little bit of Trey Lance before the last couple of years, even though albeit his injury, we know he has the arm strength to make all the throws. He doesn't have the experience, but do you feel comfortable with him being the quarterback 2 in this offense and backing up Tua Tagovailoa?
No, is the short answer right now. And maybe that changes after an entire offseason, working with Mike McDaniel and working with the team. But, the thing about Trey Lance is, for as much as Mike McDaniel was involved in the decision-making to, trade up for Trey Lance and, oh my gosh, we really like this guy, he was also very much part of the decision-making that said, hey, Brock Purdy is the direction we have to go in. So I don't know really how much love there is for Trey Lance with Mike McDaniel, at least at this point. Trey Lance, in a vacuum, I think has a lot of really good skills that you like, but I think you kind of run into a similar issue with some of the other backup quarterbacks we've seen in this offense where, the decision-making doesn't quite line up with or at least the quick decision making doesn't line up with what you have to do in this offense and kind of that get the ball out quickly. He's a guy
it's really funny you mentioned about the decision making, because this entire thing of Trey Lance not working out, John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and Mike McDaniel, part of that offensive coaching staff and the development, taking a look at the film, they're all like, okay, this is our guy right here. We can work with him. We can game plan him. They trade 3 first-round picks to get this guy, and it failed. Like, this is a very big organizational failure that could have really set back the organization 2-3 years had it not been for Jimmy Garoppolo playing as well as he did in the system, had it not been for them getting a flyer in Brock Purdy in the 7th round and undoing that gigantic, colossal mistake. If this were the Dolphins, coach, this would be one of the biggest, blackest marks in Dolphins history, and probably for Chris Greer if this were to happen too.
Yeah, as it would have been for the 49ers as well. And I get Eric's point there too. This isn't the mirror of Tua that's going to process things quickly. I think that you're going to struggle unless we're looking at the older guys to find somebody that is going to do that, and that's why I like Trey Lance in terms of the ability to make something happen with that when that quick read isn't there. But I mean, yes, it would have been a major black eye for the Dolphins to have done that and failed, and the chances that they would have ended up with Brock Purdy to fall in their laps the way that the Niners did obviously is, low odds, which it was for the 49ers as well. Not that I would expect huge things from Trey Lance if that was the direction they went. But I do think that the 49ers probably would have given Trey Lance a longer leash if they did not, realize early, in part due to the injuries to Trey Lance, the gem that they had in Brock Purdy. So I don't look at them moving on from him as early as they did as a massive failure. I think that it was more that they had decided that Purdy was the way that they were going to go, and that there really wasn't a whole lot of benefit to hanging on to Trey Lance longer.
All right. As we move off of Trey Lance, kind of like how the San Francisco 49ers did, we go into another Hawaiian quarterback, Marcus Mariota, who was a Heisman favorite back in 2011, part of the national championship game for the Oregon Ducks. He's bounced around a lot of places. Second round pick for the Tennessee Titans, played for the Las Vegas Raiders as well, started for the Atlanta Falcons up until he wasn't serviceable, and backing up, who I think will be the offensive rookie of the year for the Washington Commanders, backing up Jaden Daniels up there. Coach, what are your initial thoughts on him, first of all?
So, like I said, I think when you're looking at a backup quarterback for the Dolphins, you got to go two directions with it. Either you're looking at the younger, more athletic guy that can make stuff happen off schedule, or you've got to go more towards the vet side, the guy that has seen everything, still has a little bit of juice in his arm and is not going to, throw you into a awful mistake. And I think that latter group is obviously where Mariota falls into. He's lost a step from the athleticism that he had early in his career, but the quarterback that you see out there today in Mariota is that vet that is, had a lot of starts in his career. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's able to go out there and, process stuff pre-snap, and for the most part is going to be able to get you into the right plays and, make the right early decisions. And if the early decision is not there for him, he's not going to, just throw awful interceptions. He's not going to scramble around and just throw up a YOLO ball for the defense to get. So I like Mariota from the perspective of being that, long in the tooth vet. A lot of people talked about the Joe Flacco idea this year for the Dolphins. And I think this will be along the similar lines, somebody that's only going to be here for a couple of years, right? Maybe you pair this with, the mid or late round draft pick that you're looking at as well, that you don't want to have to force into action. But I definitely like the idea of Mariota being a QB2 for a year or two here in Miami.
All right, I'm watching this play right here again on NFL Pro. By the way, fantastic tool to take a look at it, and I'm able to filter these plays right here. This is a third down play, 5 minutes and 36 seconds in the third quarter. The Commanders are down 3-9 up against the Dallas Cowboys. This is pretty much single high safety. You have a deep safety on the upper red zone of the field. You are in 11 personnel. Austin Eckler is the running back. Zach Ertz is the tight end. The center is former Miami Dolphins offensive lineman Michael Dieter. Haven't heard that name in a while, starting center for the Commanders right here. Everyone is pretty much spread out wide. You have three pass rushers. So Mariota has a pocket to throw. That single high safety, he's going towards the weak side of the formation. He's trying to help out the cornerback who's covering Terry McLaurin. So it's pretty much one-on-one matchups on the strong side of the field for Zach Ertz, De'Ami Brown, and Olamide Zaccheaus as well. This is, again, a motion play right here for number 80. Again, Mike McDaniel's offense has a lot of motions. So we're taking a look, and I'm taking a look at plays that involve motions for these quarterbacks, timing based, anticipation as well. Mariota is able to get into his drop, throw the ball deep because it's pretty much one-on-one. He's able to layer this pass, throw it right in the breadbasket where De'Ami Brown is able to get it. It's a 29-yard gain, and Washington is able to move up the field for 29 yards right at Dallas's 5-yard line. Eric, taking a look at this play, we haven't seen a lot of Dolphins backup quarterbacks make this type of play, make this type of throw. Just a bucket getter right there.
No, and Marcus Mariota was a guy coming out that I'll admit I missed on, even though I think his career, ultimately a lot of it maybe wasn't all on Marcus Mariota, but I think as a backup, he's almost exactly what you would want. You look at a play like this here, he was releasing that ball when the wide receivers even with the defensive back there. And that's a big part of this is being able to recognize, okay, I have one-on-one, I have a favorable matchup, I'm going to attack it. And then just to get back to Coach Eric's comments about, maybe having lost a step, he had 92 rushing yards in 3 games. He's giving you 30 yards per game on the ground still. Not to say that he's, running like he did in his Titans days, but he's still giving you some pretty good juice with his legs. So I think he might be that really kind of nice mix of athleticism, but also that kind of processing speed at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, Coach, you talk about that veteran presence playing up against different types of teams as well. He brings that leadership quality to the Dolphins offense, whereas if Tua was to go down, Mariota's been there many times before. He's there. If he's able to get picked up in the offseason, he's able to learn with Tua. Tua is able to give him a lot of tips, and it may become a little bit easier for him. But you compare Mariota to Tyler Huntley, who would you favor, Coach?
I would take Mariota. Every day of the week. The early processing, right? The getting the ball out to the right guy. We talk about trying to get the ball to our guys in space. I think that Mariota is much more capable of that. I would compare Huntley more to the Trey Lance type of backup. I would take Trey Lance over Huntley as well, but I feel like those two are a little more comparable in terms of similar styles of guys that aren't going to process stuff as early, but have that athleticism to make something happen later. But if I'm looking at a guy that Tua goes down in the middle of the game or Tua is out for 2 or 3 games, I would much rather go with a veteran guy in Mariota that's seen it all and is capable of just staying afloat for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, Mariota is going to be reaching the playoffs with the Washington Commanders. And speaking about the playoffs, Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during these playoffs. Which players are going off and which ones are ice cold. With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion won, Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. With their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on players' stats, such as yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now, you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want. Every dog deserves a second chance. And with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. Underdog is the best place to play pick'em. Download the Underdog app today and use promo code 3yards to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Higher or lower, you make the call on Underdog.
Plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 19 plus in Alabama, New England, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE NY or text HOPE NY to 467-369. Must be.
All right. Once again, thank you, Alf. Make sure you guys check out 3 Yards Per Carry on Apple, Spotify, along with us. We're also part of the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast network. And make sure to check us out on OnlyFins. That's discord.gg/OnlyFins. At $2.99 a month on Apple, $3.99 if you do use the desktop. And we will have premium videos where we will be able to upload and talk about live on stage here at the Scouting the Fins podcast, part of 3 Yards Per Carry podcast network. All right, the next quarterback is very highly debatable in terms of the Miami Dolphins fan sphere and general Twitter discussion, because this guy was the backup to Tua at Alabama, won a national championship at Alabama with almost the same as Tua's weapons with Devonta Smith as well. Alabama's offensive line, similar to Alabama defense, and went to the same division as Tua Tagovailoa. We're talking about Mac Jones right here. I did not like Mac Jones coming out of Alabama. I also did not like him playing in New England, and personally, he was not good. But taking the bias off of the Stroud right here, is this the Mac Jones we know of, or was there just incompetencies in Matt Patricia's offensive system in New England, Coach?
I'm not a fan. I was not a fan of him coming out. And, when we talk about the different type of backup quarterbacks, you talk about the young guy that is mobile or the old guy that can get the ball out quickly. And Mac Jones is none of that. He's not mobile. He's, slow processing. So we end up with a quarterback that is not really that athletic, taking his time back there and ending up forcing mistakes. We know that this was a guy that Shanahan and McDaniel and the 49ers had talked about a lot during that draft. We talked about Trey Lance before, and Mac Jones was part of that conversation. I had read reports that Shanahan actually liked Mac Jones more than Trey Lance early in the process, and then kind of got swooned by Lance's athleticism as they went later in the process. But, I wasn't a huge fan of him coming out, and seeing him in New England didn't do anything to change my mind of that. You get the younger guy, I guess, would be about the only good thing that I would say about Mac Jones, that maybe there's still some upside there. But talking about backups that we're looking at in Miami for Tua, I don't have the confidence. I don't have any more confidence in Mac Jones coming in and being able to win a game or two than I would just running it back with Tyler Huntley.
Hussam, you're muted.
Whoops. There we go. Oh, when we talk about, this offensive style with Mike McDaniel, timing, anticipation, you're reading the motions, you're reading a pre-snap, and sometimes, you could be predetermining where the balls go, where the ball will go. I do think Mac Jones has the anticipation, not the same level as Tua. I would say it's a little bit average compared to Tua, and it's on the average rate of NFL quarterbacks. But it's more so making those tight window throws, getting that zip onto there, and being very, very accurate when need be. If the Dolphins are going to have Tyreek Hill next season, which we'll see what happens with that in the offseason, you're losing a guy who's an elite separator who can make those catches, not necessarily in super duper big games and very important parts of the game, because we've kind of seen Tyreek throughout these last 3 years. But outside of Jalen Waddle, what else does Mac Jones have to work with in the receiver core? Yes, we have Jonnu Smith. Yes, we have Devon Achane, but we kind of saw defenses try to take that away. So how is he going to be able to operate? All right, I'm taking a look at this play between the Jaguars and the Raiders, 3rd and 5, third quarter, 9:20 in Jacksonville, is on the Raiders' 45-yard line. On this play, he takes an 11-yard sack. Now, you're right here in 11 personnel. Rookie Brian Thomas Jr. is in the slot. You have tight end motioning. He is the big slot now, right outside of the offensive line. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys near the line of scrimmage, potentially a pressure look right here. I'll go ahead and run the play. And you have 4 players rushing the passer, and you have the defensive lineman already gaining pressure. It's a twist play, and Mac Jones is holding onto the ball really, really long right here. And what was the killer for Tyler Huntley and Skylar Thompson as the backup quarterback this season, Eric?
Holding on to the ball and
holding on to the dang ball for way far too long. And that's the thing. You got to find a quarterback who's able to get rid of the ball quickly, who's able to scan the field, get rid of the ball, find the guy that's pretty much open. You have a guy coming out who pretty much chips Max Crosby. Just go ahead and throw the ball over to him for a modest gain. But instead, Mac Jones pumps fake, fumbles the ball, recovers it, and it's an 11-yard sack. That's the type of play where you're like, this is classic the Dolphins without Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones has some of the attributes that you would want in a guy that can back up Tua. Specifically when it comes to layering some of those intermediate throws, he does do that very well, admittedly. But then you see moments like this, and it's just, man, what makes Tua great is not only that he has that quick release, not only that he is that accurate, but he doesn't get enough credit for how evasive inside of the pocket he is, just navigating the pressure. And Mac Jones is just none of that. And if you're not going to be elusive in terms of athleticism, you have to at least be elusive in terms of short area quickness. And Mac Jones, not only is he not that, but we've seen it against the Dolphins. He's a quarterback that gets very easily rattled when the pressure gets onto him. And it's just in an offense where you have to get the ball out quickly. Mac Jones feels like what people say to it is, which if his first read isn't there, he's going to freak out. And that's really kind of why I would go away from Mac Jones. Although, I mean, if you could get the offense to simplify for him, like I said, I think he does layer those intermediate throws pretty well.
Again, the key word, if you simplify the offense, how much more simple, can you get in this offense, and whether or not Mike McDaniel is able to make that change. All right, we're moving on from Mac Jones to Jimmy Garoppolo. Has history playing in this system, is the backup quarterback for the Los Angeles Rams. Very similar play style like Tua Tagovailoa. Has won games, has played in the Super Bowl, been in the Super Bowl as well, but just couldn't get the job done. Back in 2022, which was, Tua's first year with Mike McDaniel, Tua was the second best quarterback throwing the ball in terms of EPA. And right behind him is Mr. Jimmy G himself. So, Coach, out of all of the quarterbacks we've talked about so far, where does Jimmy G rank, and what kind of attributes do you see in him?
So in terms of ranking, I think the terms depends on what else you plan to do there. If you're looking to draft a quarterback to develop, kind of a bookworm type quarterback, if we're trying to find our version of Brock Purdy that is just going to come in and absorb the offense and develop into a backup type quarterback, then the Jimmy G or the Marcus Mariota would be the direction I would go. If you feel like you have so many other holes to fill that you can't draft a quarterback, then I would probably go the Trey Lance route. But if we're looking at Mariota versus Garoppolo, if we're just blank slate, if we were bringing in a new coach, for example, then I would go Mariota over Garoppolo, but the obvious advantage that Garoppolo has in this entire conversation is that he is the most experienced in this offense and was part of the offense that Mike McDaniel grew up in San Francisco. So, this feels like the guy that, if something happens, you're going to be able to put him in. He's going to understand the language, the motions, getting everybody in the right place. So this, in a lot of ways feels like the best caretaker of the offense if we're looking for the veteran that we can put in there for now while we develop a mid or low round rookie behind there to take over as the backup in a couple of years.
Eric, I'm taking a look at this play here again on NFL Pro Plus. Second quarter, 11-19 time, 2nd and 4 at the Rams 40-yard line. It's a motion, again, motion and timing right here. You have the motion coming from the right side of the ball. The motion comes, fakes the hands off, turns his head around. Okay, scanning the field, blocking is subpar. There's a little bit of pressure coming from the edge. Steps up, boom, throws it out on a swing pass to that motion player, kind of like a little bit of Devon A-Chain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Throws the ball. Nobody is able to make the tackle. 20 yards right there. All right. He's scanning the field once again. Okay, I don't have anybody open just yet or looking back at the ball. I have pressure coming in my face to my right-hand side. I don't have time to step up and make the throw. He's not a Josh Allen or Mahomes where he can, throw while he's destabilized or on one foot. He's not superhuman. He's similar to Tua Tagovailoa. He's not making this downfield throw, anticipating him. Like, he's able to break through on this inner post. Takes the check down, takes the swing, is able to be successful and convert. This is a bit of a veteran type of presence. And Eric, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Coach. Where would you rank Jimmy G with these other 3 quarterbacks we've talked about?
I think Garoppolo would probably be number 2 for me personally, behind Mariota. The only reason being is, while I understand Jimmy Garoppolo had success in San Francisco and he's won games there and he's familiar with the offense, you look inside of some of those numbers in San Francisco, specifically in 2022, and there are some flaws that you can nitpick at. He's got a negative completion percentage over expected. The air yards is not very good. It feels like he's kind of a caricature of what people, in the first 2 years, kind of that whole idea that Tua was just, a check down merchant. I think Garoppolo might be a little bit more of that, even though he can make some decent throws down the field as well. I just think that Mariota adds a level of dynamism out of that backup spot that a guy like Garoppolo just couldn't give you. And I'm willing to, kind of take that swing on the upside rather than, because I just don't think the floor with Mariota is that much lower than with Garoppolo as a backup.
And Coach, we know he's had experience. He might command a little bit of more money. Again, going back to this question, is it better to have Tyler Huntley with another full offseason under his belt? You run it back with him, or you get a guy like Jimmy G or Mariota and you're set at quarterback 2 and quarterback 3?
No, I think we've seen the result of, trying to go, bottom of the barrel shopping for quarterbacks in terms of the money invested. I don't think that can be a reason that you run it back with Huntley. If you truly feel like Huntley, in the time that he's spent with Miami, has, progressed through the playbook and has shown the upside that you actually like him as much as these other quarterbacks, then I could see running it back, at a lower price. But if we're just looking at it and we're saying, these 2 or 3 guys are a upgrade on the field, but they're a couple million more dollars. I don't think that we can again go back through and not spend that money.
Right, right. And if they are going to spend money, there are a couple of options out there like a Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Andy Dalton. We know that Andy Dalton was rumored by Mike McDaniel to be a guy that he wanted to back up Tua Tagovailoa in the offseason. There was a report put out there, I believe, by either Adam Beasley or Joe Shad that got out there after a couple of weeks. They had Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer had to come to a compromise right there. They got Tyler Huntley instead of Andy Dalton, and Andy Dalton was paid a little bit more. He looked better than Bryce Young earlier on the season, and then he got benched because we kind of know what type of quarterback Andy Dalton is. He's the red rifle. He's the gunslinger, but he can also make back-breaking type of mistakes. And he's not that guy that was a consistent performer in the regular season, but couldn't do much in the playoffs. If we follow the trajectory of the Dolphins quarterback into a Tagovailoa, he does well in the beginning of the season. Injuries come, and you need someone to elevate the play like Tua does towards the later part of the season, towards a playoff run. Is Andy Dalton that guy, Eric?
I don't think so. At least because to me, I don't, and I understand Andy Dalton's had a very successful career to this point, but I don't understand the thinking that he would really garner much more than like a Jimmy Garoppolo on the market at this point. Because the thing that I struggle with Andy Dalton is the Dolphins don't have an AJ Green, and it's a lot of his success in Cincinnati. Not to attribute it all to AJ Green, but it's just that kind of gunslinger mentality. I'll just throw it up there. Who is he going to be? Just throwing it up there to on this team.
Right.
You don't
I
really
mean,
have those guys.
you bring that Ryan Fitzpatrick gunslinger type of mentality. You don't have a tall guy that can just go up and get it. Now, I'll be a coach. We'll take a look at that once our wide receiver free agency series show comes out. But with this current wide receiver court, with this current iteration of this offense, does Andy Dalton make sense?
I view him very much in the same light as the Garoppolo, the Mariota, and Dalton. All older guys that can come in, have seen a lot of defenses, so they're not going to be surprised too often by what they're seeing. Guys that I think that are capable of guiding an offense, but I don't see any of these guys as guys that are going to come in and carry a team. I think that's why you saw Andy Dalton come in at Carolina and not stick to that starting job for too long there. But I would view Andy Dalton as an upgrade over Tyler Huntley right now. But if you gave me all three of those quarterbacks side by side and told me that they were pretty similar in money, then out of Jimmy G, Dalton, and Mariota, Dalton would be the third on that list for me.
Eric?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I honestly, with Garoppolo and Dalton, it's almost a virtual tie at that point, but I would just give the nod to Garoppolo, number one, because of just better playoff experience, number two, because of his experience in the offense. But I would definitely have Mariota as probably one. Then flip a coin, Garoppolo, Dalton. Garoppolo kind of gets the tiebreaker.
I would more so be along the lines of Mariota 1A, Jimmy G 1B. Who would be the one to take the less money out of it? It looks like they may invest a lot of money and time into this quarterback 2 search, but it's going to be dependent on how well their skill set can translate Obviously, the contract terms, the finances. Well, but once that happens, we'll be able to break it down and to see how they will mesh with Tua and also the locker room very well. We can talk about the X's and O's, but what about, inside the locker room, coach? Both of these guys are veterans. They bring that leadership presence as well. But Jimmy G's been to the playoffs. He's led the team to, playoff berths, championship appearances, the Super Bowl appearance as well. Does that factor a lot more into the decision making as well, alongside what you see on the field?
Yeah, I mean that obviously any signing that you make, you have to consider how that's going to affect the locker room, and the backup quarterback is a big one in that sense because in a lot of ways your backup quarterback is an extra coach to your starting quarterback. They help in terms of breaking things down and helping them, with what they're seeing. So all three of these guys have been around the league. Seems like everybody has good things to say about them. You don't hear about any of these guys going somewhere and saying, no, I'm not going to help develop a young guy. You don't see the Kirk Cousins type comment when they drafted Penix and he's like, not my job to develop him type deal. So I feel confident in any of those three older guys being able to come in and, be a positive influence in the locker room in addition to being able to, play some football.
Well, folks, that's pretty much towards the end of our show. Stick with us here on Scouting the Fins, part of the 3 Yards Per Carry podcast feed, also part of the 5 Reasons Sports Network group. As always, y'all, stick with us. We'll be back with our running back and wide receiver show pretty soon as well. As always, go Fins, baby.